Hi, Mr. Ignatieff. Last week, the Premier said he would ask you to clarify your position on the harmonized sales tax. I'm wondering, we have you here in Toronto today. Could you clarify whether you support or don't support the introduction of an HST in Ontario and British Columbia?
Look, the HST, harmonized sales tax, is an arrangement initiated by the Harper government. They have sought the cooperation of two provinces. There are a couple of problems. The first problem is there's no national plan. So Mr. Harper, as usual, is playing one province against the other. The BC plan looks this way, the Ontario plan's different. We would have done that differently. We think this is one country, and if you're going to do harmonized sales tax, you ought to have a national plan that has consistent national standards. So that's the first problem. The second problem is that if this is a deal done by the Harper government and the McGuinty government and the Campbell government, and we come into office, we're a party of government. We're serious professional people. We're not going to rip up an agreement that has been duly negotiated between a federal government and a provincial government. But and this would be my third and final remark, in those cases where there is still unfairness, there's still problems in its application, we would listen carefully to the provincial government's concern and see what we could do to make it fairer and more equitable for the Canadians in the provinces concerned.
We have time for two more questions, one at each mic, please.
Keith Leslie, Canadian Press, and I'm afraid I'm going to ask a follow-up to Mr. Madden's question. We know what you're saying, what you would do, but where do you personally stand on this arrangement between Prime Minister Harper and the governments of Ontario and British Columbia? Where do you stand on this issue of harmonizing the sales taxes?
My view of this is look, Mr. Harper decided to push sales tax harmonization in the middle of a recession. He got two provinces to agree. The right way to do this is to get a national plan with a harmonized sales tax proposal that makes sense for all the provinces. Instead, he's playing one province against the other. That's problem number one. Problem number two is, were we in government and this sales tax is in place and the harmonization has occurred, it's just not responsible for a party of government to say, well, we'll tear it up and go back to ground zero. What we can do and what we can say to Ontarians and British Columbians is, if there's unfairness, if there are problems, if there are things that are really hurting the local economy, of course we're going to sit down with the province and say, can we correct this? Can we help? Can we make this fairer for Canadians? That I'm prepared to do.